Have you ever thought to yourself, as an edible gardener, if I can't eat it, why bother growing it? If so, you were me about 4 or 5 years ago when I really just didn't care that much about flowers. As you can see, I could not be further from the truth today, which is why myself, Jacques, and Nicole on the Epic Gardening team are going to give you our top picks for flowers that every veggie grower should be considering in their garden. And I'm gonna kick it off with the one you see right here at my feet. Beautiful smell wafting up into my nostrils. Of course, I'm talking about chamomile. And yeah, I did just say chamomile, guys. And if you don't like that I pronounce it that way for fun, you might just have to unsubscribe. I don't know what to tell you. I love chamomile though in the garden. I think it's fantastic, and I think you should be trying German chamomile. There's one called Roman chamomile. German is the one I'm going to talk about. Let's take a closer look at this beautiful flower. Believe it or not, all of the chamomile I planted in this garden, I didn't plant this year. I actually sowed it probably 3 or 4 years ago, and it's gone through seasons where there haven't been as many coming back and seasons where there's plenty, as you can see this year. So it's a self-sowing annual, but it might be one of the most powerful flowers you can grow in an edible garden because, first of all, it is actually edible. You can have chamomile tea. If you wanted to use it for that purpose, you'd come out probably a little bit earlier in the day. You want these petals to be pointing upwards, not downwards. That indicates it's a little bit more fresh, a little bit more ready to pick. And we harvest it in probably the most fun way of all time. So yes, we boop our chamomile, we harvest it up. But in the garden, aside from being an edible, it also is a great beneficial and pollinator attractant. Some of those smaller creatures like hoverflies, you'll find them all around this. And it can also be used as pressed flowers for crafts. You can put it in wreaths, you can dry the flower. So to me, it is one of the most fun plants flower-wise to add to the garden. Not only that, it smells kind of like green apple and even has a bit of that flavor. So I think chamomile is one of the most crucial plants you should have in a vegetable garden.
Hi flower friends, it's Nicole from Flower Hill Farm, and I've been growing cut flowers commercially for 8 years now at my farm in upstate New York, Zone 4B. But when I'm not harvesting buckets of blooms, you can find me here. It's the local garden center. My husband and I actually took it over about 4 years ago, and we've been growing tens of thousands of plants for our community ever since. Okay, Kevin and Jack want my top 4 flowers. This is not easy for me to decide, but if I have to choose, I'm gonna skip over some of the more obvious ones, and I'm going to tell you about some of the workhorses at my farm that provide not only beauty, but beauty that you can bring inside in a bouquet. The first one I want to tell you about is Coreopsis. Coreopsis is something I've been growing at the farm for just 3 years now. There are some native varieties that will come back for you year after year. The bees, the butterflies, the pollinators, they all flock to this plant because it has that perfectly open flower that allows easy access to nectar and pollen. Coreopsis actually is a Greek word for bug-like because the seeds, if you look at them, they look like ticks. So this plant is also known as tick seed. My favorite variety to grow is Incredible Coreopsis, and boy does it live up to its name. It has a beautiful white trim with a brown burgundy center. It is very wildflower looking, and it literally dances not only in the field, but in your arrangements. Bonus, they make amazing cut flowers. Not only will they look so beautiful if you bring them inside or gifting them to friends, but the simple act of cutting them out makes the plants more productive. It literally gives the plant a push to produce more blooms. So the more you cut, the more flowers you get. The Incredible variety is actually an annual, but the other varieties that you can grow are perennials in zones 3 through 9.
A lot of vegetable gardeners think there is no reason to grow flowers because you can't really eat them. They're not going to fix your food budget. But look around. They do offer a lot of beauty, but not just that. Certain flowers can actually have superpowers in the garden and are fantastic companion plants. And one of the most powerful out there that I don't think I could really do without is the French marigold. So first things first, I do have some French marigolds planted around my tomato. I have 2 on each plant, and I think I'll be adding even more. And I also want to mention that French marigold is the specific one I'm talking about. There's African marigolds and Signet marigolds. Those do not have the superpowers that the French ones have. Now I have 3 different varieties in my hands here, which are to demonstrate the different colors that they can come in and also different sizes. First up is Lemon Drop, which makes a beautiful roughly yellow color if that is what you prefer. Then you've got Naughty Marietta, which has an amazing name, but the main thing I like about this is that it has the bicolor and it's a compact plant. So I could really jam it around my plants without it really taking over. But if you want something big and showy and extra aromatic, the red Metromorph is your pick. And this one's really cool because it even changes colors based on the temperature. It might be more yellow or red, depending on whether it's hot or cold. But let's talk about the real benefit of growing these in your garden. They have abilities of chemical warfare. Now, the first one's a little bit more innocent, and it's through aroma confusion. It basically creates a little invisibility scent dome around them because marigolds are extremely pungent. You know them, you could smell them. If you touch them, you could definitely tell. If you plant enough of them, they'll essentially produce so much of that smell, I think it's called limonene or limonene, that it will literally hide it from the things like whiteflies looking for your cabbage or maybe even aphids. So that is something that's been demonstrated and shown to work. But the main thing and the main reason I am growing French marigolds is their chemical warfare that they wage against root knot nematodes. This is a pest that has plagued my garden recently, and the really cool thing about them is that through their roots, they release a sulfurous compound that literally oxidizes and kills nematodes in the soil. This has even been shown to be more effective than some pesticides that you could use. Now, there is a simple catch here, and that is that you can't just put like a single marigold in your bed and hope for magic to happen. You really have to pack them in tight, dense, and you have to grow them for like 3 or 4 months in order to get those benefits. And this is something that's been shown in studies by University of Florida, and it's just a known thing that works. You just have to make sure you get the French marigolds, and this is the only kind of chemical warfare that I condone, the ones that plants naturally do in the soil.
The next flower on my list has to be Ageratum. Now, Ageratum comes in a smaller variety for the landscape or a taller variety for cutting. Either one is going to be beautiful in your garden space. And not to mention, just like Coreopsis, the pollinators absolutely love this plant. The name Ageratum translates to mean ageless, and that's because once these beautiful flowers start to bloom, you can actually expect them to hold on to their color right through the end of the season. Ageratum goes by a couple of different names. A lot of people know it as floss flower, but a few years ago, I nicknamed it the Dr. Seuss flower because there's just something about it that reminds me of the Lorax, especially after it rains. Ageratum is not deer proof, but it's deer resistant, and I can tell you in all of my years of growing, I have never had the deer try to nibble on mine. Ageratum comes in many different colors, including white, pink, red, but my favorite color is definitely the traditional purple one. I often say that my bouquets are not complete until those pops of purple are added. I plant my seedlings out after any threat of frost has passed. I plant them a little closer together at the farm, about 6 inches, but I think 9 inches would be great in a garden space.
As an organic gardener, there is something I rely on to power my garden, and that is my homemade compost. But moving compost around the garden can be heavy and challenging, especially since we normally don't put our compost bins directly in our garden. And that is where Gorilla Cart comes in, the sponsor of today's video. And I am so happy I have this 7 cubic foot Gorilla Cart because this thing can hold 1,200 pounds. And you might be thinking, Jacques, you're clearly trapped in there. Why would you park in such a weird way? Well, that's where the amazing turning radius comes into play, because I could just grab this handle just like this, turn the wheels all the way, and off I go into my garden. And I love the fact that even when it's fully loaded with really heavy compost, I could easily drag this around my garden with one hand on any terrain. This makes it super easy for me to just grab my shovel and directly apply compost into my garden. Now, if you wanted to dump this whole thing, well, you're in luck because this thing has an easy dump handle, which lets you dump the entire load in a single go. No more back and forth, no more jiggling. And I can't finish this without telling you about my favorite wheelbarrow that I've ever used. The Gorilla wheelbarrow is so much easier to maneuver and lift, and I could get it into the tightest spots in my garden to make sure I have the mulch and compost exactly where I need it. So thank you to Gorilla for sponsoring this video. And now let's get back to some flowers.
The next flower on my list is straw flower. Straw flower is always a conversation starter in the garden because what we think of as petals are actually crispy. They feel like, well, straw. They're actually not petals. They're modified leaves known as bracts, which is why even when fresh, they feel crispy and paper-like. Like Ageratum, straw flowers come in different size options. I have this one here that I'm growing for sale at the nursery. It's called Granvia Gold, and this one grows bushy and not as tall as the tall varieties that you would grow for cutting. Straw flowers come in a wide variety of colors and they react to the weather. So they'll be open on a nice sunny day. If it's cold and gloomy, the blooms might close. Straw flowers are a workhorse on my farm because not only are they amazing fresh flower, but check these out. These are some dried flowers that I've had for years. Look at the color on that. The color lasts on straw flowers for years after you dry them. In fact, I've used these in workshops year round. They look great in flower crowns or on a wreath. I've even used them to decorate pumpkins in the fall time. Straw flowers are native to Australia, so they can take some pretty severe weather. They prefer hot temperatures and well-drained soil. They tend to do best once we reach midsummer. If it is cold and wet, they will struggle. And a word to the wise, straw flowers can get quite big, so give them 9 to 12 inches between plants. If you're harvesting them to dry, harvest them when they are halfway open, hang them upside down to dry, and keep them out of humidity and the sunlight.
I know that spring literally just arrived, but summer is just around the corner, and with it comes heat and some element of drought. So we want to make sure we're choosing flowers that could handle that quite well, and one of my favorites happens to be excellent at handling both of those because it is native to Mexico and it is called the zinnia. So at this current moment, I only have these 2 zinnias in my garden, and they're actually pioneers because they're volunteered from last season. Now, an interesting thing about these pioneers is that they were also the first flowering plant in space. Scientists grew them on the ISS, and that's a pretty neat little fact here. Now, there are a lot of different varieties of zinnias. They come in a lot of different colors, different sort of petals and blooms. So how do you choose the right one? Well, it might depend on what your goal is. Zinnias are fantastic pollinator attractors. Butterflies love them, bees love them, and they're nice and tall. And like I said, they can withstand a lot of drought and heat, especially if you choose the right variety. So the first one I have for you is called Persian Carpet. You could see how much variation there is on the colors and blooms there. And this is one that is known to be extremely drought tolerant and heat tolerant, which makes it useful for sort of low maintenance and kind of putting it on the edge of your garden bed. And all zinnias can make fantastic cut flowers, especially if you grow the taller ones. Now, one of my favorites is the Cactus Blend. And this one's great because it's really easy for pollinators to access. They're really open, they're not that fluffy. And so that's a fantastic little use case. But if you're looking for like drama and color throughout the season, then the Queen Lime series, this one's orange, are some of the best. This is one that literally transforms before your eyes. It starts off looking like this, and then it transforms into this giant puffball with different colors that change throughout the whole course of it growing. It's so much fun to see this one coming alive in the garden. But if you're short on space and you really want to try to like pack some flowers in between your vegetables or maybe in a grow bag, then the Thumbelina is a great pick because this one is going to remain smaller than the rest. So it might not be your best cut flower option, but if you're just looking for beauty in the garden, it's hard to go away from the Thumbelina. So all zinnias are fantastic. They do produce a lot of nectar and so much beauty and potential in your garden. They'll definitely benefit you in the long run.
Rounding out my Fab 4 is snapdragons. Snapdragons are one of my favorite things to see in my flower field. They have this beautiful regal spike. They come in so many colors. I love all of them, but I think my favorite variety has to be Night and Day. Night and Day has this amazing burgundy top on the petal, and then the lower petal is this white. Such a contrast. Right now, I am picturing Coreopsis alongside Night and Day snapdragons. Can you see it? Oh my gosh, those would be the most epic pairing, especially in a bouquet. Snapdragons love cool weather. They're what is called a hardy annual. So I like to get them in the ground at least 4 weeks before my last expected frost. The sooner you get them in the ground, the sooner you can get those blooms. The name snapdragon actually comes from when you take the side of the flower and you squeeze it, it opens up and it looks like a dragon's mouth. It's actually quite fun to do. I have done a little singing with my snapdragon mouth before. You know, to each their own. It's just really fun to play with, especially with kids in the garden. Pinching your snapdragons will urge the plant to push out even more blooms. So the more you cut from it, the more blooms you'll get. It is old folklore that snapdragons meant good luck and they warded off evil spirits. So it was tradition to plant snapdragons in front of a home for good luck. I plant mine pretty close together. I give them about a 4-inch spacing in the farm field, but in the landscape, you might want to give them a little bit more room to breathe. Okay, I'm giving you a bonus because my heart is aching to tell you about lupins, or lupini, if you will. It's an inside joke with my family. We call lupins lupini because we love lupini beans. Anyway, lupins are the gift that keeps on giving. They love to be started from seed. They love to be direct sown, so you don't have to start them early. And they love to spread, and they are so amazingly gorgeous. I'm actually working on building an entire field of all different color lupins because they come in just amazing different colors, not just that purple that you see. It comes in pink, white, yellow, and everything in between. For me, lupins or lupini represents the love of gardening that I received from my grandpa Gabriel. And he was a big inspiration for me. In fact, a lot of the lupins that I have at my farm, he started from seed. So the more lupins in the world, the better. He was my huge inspiration. In fact, this greenhouse we call Grandpa's greenhouse in his memory.
My next pick is another one that I did not plant in this spot, and yet here it is. And I think if controlled properly, this plant can be a fantastic addition to a vegetable garden as a flower. And of course, I'm talking about borage. I can see and hear bees all around me right now, which is one of the primary reasons why I recommend to gardeners to grow borage. It is such a crazy attractant of beneficial insects, including bees, which of course we need in our edible gardens, especially as summer approaches. Just look at how many flowers are on this plant. Not all of them are open, but you can see little specks of blue, this brilliant sort of royal blue. It's a beautiful addition to a garden. The plant will get about 2 to 3 feet tall, but it has a lot of benefits outside of that pollinator attractant quality. It actually is edible. You can eat the flowers, you can use them as edible flowers, you can candy the flowers. You can actually eat the leaves and the stems if you want to. I haven't done it myself, but it's said to taste a bit like spinach. The other reason why a lot of people will grow borage is that it can be used as a cover crop. Take a look at where I'm standing right now. There's a raised bed right here. There's a raised bed over there. This borage is actually self-sown itself right in the ground between the raised beds, which gives me a nice bit of color in this area. But at the end of the season, or if I just don't want it around anymore, I can chop it out, chop it up, throw it in my compost, or throw it directly on the soil, and it adds a ton of organic matter back into the soil. The one caveat I'll say with borage is it can spread like crazy. I see it over there, off the camera, over this way in my orchard. So I am gonna have to go pick it out here and there, but if properly managed, I think it's one of the best additions to a garden. And if you wanna see a more in-depth borage care guide, check this video out right here. All of the seeds we showed you today can be found on botanicalinterest.com or at over 5,000 nurseries around the country. Just look for the white packets with the beautiful illustrations. We'll see you on the next one, guys. Good luck in the garden and keep on growing.